Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Chelsea 1, Aston Villa 1. Chelsea unable to get back to winning ways before the end of 2020. Frustrating. I think it is 2 points dropped, especially when you go 1-0 up at home, especially the way we played in the first half. I felt we played some really lovely stuff. I felt the sort of connectivity of that front three and Mason Mount today, and I felt there was such energy and creativity at moments in that first half where you felt like Chelsea could really pull away from a pretty good Aston Villa side who were going to give teams, and have already given teams, a lot of trouble so far this season. I think it's hard to get away from the moment that, makes it a draw. The Ghazi equaliser. He's in great goal-scoring form. The moment Christensen goes down. I think on one hand, I'm annoyed at the official because I felt we had a terrible performance tonight. I don't usually speak about officials because I think it's a little bit sort of sour grapes, and you can sort of get away from, the controllable elements, your own performance, tactics, formation. But I felt overall he just had a terrible night. I mean, early in the game, it felt like, and the commentators picked up on this, that he was not going to allow sort of soft fouls to go, basically. If a player went down too easily, he wasn't going to blow the whistle. But then it got to a point where it just seemed like he was letting sort of any foul go, unless a player was absolutely going down and been clattered, he wasn't going to blow his whistle. So I felt just poor officiating. Even if it's, a foul on Christensen or a 50-50, I think maybe the referee has to stop play there. But my annoyance with Chelsea in that moment, and it's a critical moment in the game that cost us the win in the end, is who's tracking, who's like covering for Christensen, who's on the floor. Where's N'Golo Kante? Dave as well at the back post was calling for someone to be there. How free El Ghazi was at that moment. It was just a terrible moment all round for Chelsea, and it really dented our confidence because there was a lot of positive signs in the first half. It wasn't surprising Frank made a lot of changes to this team. I think, I think if you expected sort of 8 or 9 players from the game against Arsenal to feature here, I think you'd be a little bit crazy, to be honest, just based on the nature of time between both games. But I was happy to see Callum start, happy to see Pulisic back on the left, Olivier Giroud back in the team, and that paid off big time for Chelsea in the first half. Mason still playing. The engine on Mason, I think, is just incredible. He really is one of the fittest players in the squad, and tonight his performance was really good. Ben Chilwell, I was amazed to see him in a starting 11 again, and for me, he was Chelsea's man of the match tonight. He set up the opening goal for Olivier Giroud, but I felt all round and was so unfortunate not to score a worldy winner in the closing moments. I mean, that would have been one of the goals of the season. Absolute limbs at full time if that would have gone in, unfortunately. But I felt Ben definitely back to what we saw early in the season. He's had some difficult performances at Chelsea's sort of results have tailed off in recent weeks, and we've been in some poor form. But I felt he was back to his best of the opening periods of the season, offering the overlap, and creatively, I'm sure now with that assist to Olivier Giroud, which was the same assist, sort of similar to the service he gave to Giroud against Wolves. Chilwell is now the highest assister of any Chelsea player in the Premier League so far this season. So I think that shows you the creativity we have on that left from Ben, even if we don't have Reece James or Hakim Ziyech on the pitch for us. But I felt that goal itself, I've got to give credit to it, because I felt the fluid movement, the creativity, the just sort of the intelligence of so many of the players there. I think firstly, Mason Mount, I think it will get lost, Mason's involvement in that goal, because you think about, the person who assists it, of course, Ben Chilwell, the person who scores it, Olivier Giroud, even Christian Pulisic, who plays the pass to Ben Chilwell. But Mason just adding that urgency, a really quick ball into Olivier Giroud. And it was such a smart pass by Mount. It's what he has in his game, that switches of play, those quick moments and tactical intelligence that he has within this team, that I think makes him such a key player for Frank Lampard. I felt Pulisic as well, involvement in the goal was good. Olivier Giroud, just to give you a stat here, Olivier Giroud with that headed goal, since his Premier League debut in August 2012, Olivier Giroud has scored more headed goals than any other player in the competition with 32. And I thought it was going to spark, a real good night for Chelsea, really. I felt that Olivier Giroud would probably get more space. Bertrand Traoré was not running with Ben Chilwell a lot of the times. That changed later on in the game, but Ben was getting so much space on that left, and you felt like this was going to be a brilliant night, not only for him, but for Olivier Giroud in front of goal as well. I also felt the rotation rotations in movement between Pulisic and Mount early on in the game was really impressive. You know, Pulisic had a few chances, but I like the fact that sometimes Mason would go into that sort of left position and Pulisic would drop back a little bit going into a central area. I think it gave Aston Villa a lot of problems early on, and it's that sort of fluidity of movement we've been lacking recently that just gives you that invention and that added element and dynamic that can break down defenses. So I like that from both Mason and Pulisic tonight. Despite not having a hand in the opening goal, I want to give credit to Callum Hudson-Odoi. I think he absolutely took his chance tonight, especially in that first half. Some wonderful switches of play with firstly his right foot, but then also the outside of his right boot as well. Wonderful play from Callum Hudson-Odoi. I think he added that energy. Once again, a bit like Arsenal, that's 2 back-to-back performances that have impressed me from Callum, with his directness, with the width he gives on the pitch, a bit like Pulisic. That's something as well we've lacked recently as well. So I think Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi, especially for the next game moving forward, I think should be the main 2 wide players for Chelsea. Let me know if you agree with that, because even though Pulisic was a bit frustrated in front of goal, I just think they add a little bit more, and we've been lacking in those areas recently, especially as Ziyech is getting his way back to fitness. And Aston Villa are some really decent players. You know, I look towards Jack Grealish, who I think we kept quiet tonight. I look towards, of course, Ghazi, who scored, Ollie Watkins, who despite not scoring recently, I think still offers something up top for them. And John McGinn, I felt, was a really good player for Villa tonight, especially in midfield. I think he really helped Villa to keep in the game, basically. I felt in the midfield we were starting to overrun them a bit, but I think, you know, he could have scored the winner himself. You know, an amazing strike that luckily for Chelsea hit the bar and went out. Mendy couldn't have done anything about that if it went in, because it was such a good strike. I think in the end, for me, subs once again, Timo Werner. I can understand, you know, Pulisic has played a lot of football, and there was a moment where it seemed like the commentators, I think they obviously just made a mistake when saying this, that Jorginho was going to come off for Timo Werner, but in the end it was Jorginho off for Havertz and Giroud off for Timo Werner. That surprised me, and Timo did have a chance late on, which I hoped he would have hit the target with. It's not, you know, a clear-cut opportunity, but, you know, I hope a guy in his form, he needs to hit the target at this point, and it's such a shame. But I felt taking off Giroud in that game, I think it was difficult for Frank, because he probably looked at that first half performance and saw Pulisic impacting the game, saw Hudson-Odoi getting space, and saw Giroud scoring that goal. I think that, you know, it's difficult to take any of those players out. You want those players on the pitch, but for me, taking off Giroud, I think we lacked everything from there, basically, because having that focal point, taking off a player in form who didn't play the other night, because even with Chilwell's continued involvement in the game, we lacked anything in the middle, and it really stopped us from creating chances, and I think that inevitably led to the game ending in a 1-1 draw. Of course, Ben Chilwell late on could have scored the winner. I'm not entirely sure about the Man City game. Of course, their game against Everton has been called off tonight. I don't know if that's going to impact our game on the 3rd, I believe. If that game gets called off, the next time Chelsea plays against Morecambe in the FA Cup on the 10th. So there could be a bit of a time between games now for Chelsea, which I think could be a positive for Frank Lampard, getting some players back to fitness like Hakim, Ziyech, and maybe reassessing things. I don't think tonight was the worst performance. I think there's a bit of frustration, obviously, conceding that goal. I think, you know, you needed to rest players tonight. I don't think you could have picked the same 11, but currently Chelsea need a win, and the unfortunate thing is when you look at the Premier League games at the moment coming up for Chelsea, not a lot of easy ones, you know, not a lot of bankable ones. You know, Man City, a very difficult game. I look beyond that, the likes of Leicester and Wolves, and it's going to be difficult for Chelsea. It really is, and Frank Lampard still is going to be asked questions and is under pressure at the moment. Let me know your opinions on the game in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.